As the summary said, the interview process is going to be broken into two parts, 30 minutes each. First part is 5 questions, pretty simple. It's just trying to get a feel for how you guys work, how you guys are together as a team, how you communicate, the whole 9 yards. So the second part will be a presentation, which is optional to you guys.
Well, we do introductions here and then.
Oh, sure.
So,
Hi, I'm Dave Boersma. I'm an architect with Spicer Group out of Saginaw and Dundee, Michigan.
Peter Cross, I'm the estimator for OakCity Contracting.
Brock Johnson, project manager with OakCity Contracting.
all right. Rick Hamill, Township Supervisor.
Ken Jabin, Fire Chief.
Judy Cooper, Highland Township Treasurer.
Tammy Flowers, clerk.
Robbie Young, firefighter.
All right. And then we may have people come in as August. James, can you shut the door there, please? Just because it's an open meetings, anybody can come in and
Sure.
observe, so. All right, the first question is, take a few minutes to tell us about each entity in the design build team. Builder,
Designer.
give us the portrayal of the designer. Designer, give us the portrayal of the builder. Why you chose each other to be teammates and partners in this endeavor.
You want to go first, Brock, or you want me to go first?
As far as OakCity Contracting goes, we chose Spicer Group for our relationship and our background and our history. Dave and I have got a long history together, actually went through college together at Lawrence Tech. So for 30 years, we've worked with each other on projects all over across the state and even out of the state. We work good with each other, pull from each other's experiences. For our company and our groups, construction companies, right down to them designing our own office building, warehouse, structural, everything. We feel we're a valuable part of the team. And as far as them, because they've got everything in-house and so do we. We have the capacity to self-perform all of our own trades except for electrical. That's why we're also strong general contractor, strong construction manager. And they've got all the forces inside, straight through from civil, mechanical, electrical, structural, architectural. I mean, it's just been a win-win for us. Instead of trying to coordinate multiple facets and multiple groups, we're the KISS technique. Just trying to keep it simple, keep it in-house with them and with us and their municipality experiences throughout the state. I mean, when we know that they act and run in city departments and code officials and everything in-house, it makes our job that much easier.
You didn't leave a whole lot of me to talk about, Brock.
Stole my thunder, bud.
Yeah. Well, like Brock said, he and I have been friends for nearly 30 years and have worked together in college, personal life, as well as professional life together ever since then. Brock's entire family is, as well as the Oak City family, are kind of surrogates up north to my family and some of the other people on our team. We go up there, we hunt together, we play together, and we work together. Oak City's had a history of doing public safety work, as well as senior housing, corrections facilities, municipal buildings, and so does Spicer. So we work very well together. And we're always looking out for the project to make sure it's a successful project. What's successful for them is successful for us, and vice versa. I don't know really what else to say, because he pretty much already said everything.
You want to add anything
I would
to
say,
it?
I mean, not much I can chime into that, other than the fact that even on projects that we're not working on together, we have this sort of relationship that I could call Dave and say, Dave, what do you think about this? If I'm looking at a totally separate project, and vice versa, he could call us and say, you know, what do you think about costing on this? So we just have a pretty close, you know, it's developed almost into a personal relationship. Not me, I don't have the college background that these guys have, but that we can bounce ideas off each other and just work really well together. Just a real open relationship.
Very good. Hey. With this being a design build approach to the fire station construction, we've heard different responses on this question. Change orders are unavoidable. What would you recommend to limit the requirement for a change order?
Thorough budgeting and planning, I mean, working together as a team, we're open book, so when we bring the project to you, we're bringing with, here's the materials, we go through from start to finish with you. We know the life of them, we're not gonna specify them to you, or if we know we can't get them readily available, right down through the weather, the mother nature, the planning, sizing of the projects and the tasks for the local trades and the local market. We've got a good grasp on who contractors are and what their capabilities are. So when we write out our general conditions and our conditions and scope packages to each guy, it's pretty much airtight. Because we also know if we're giving you a guaranteed max price, not only do we have to represent what's on that paper, but we have the ability to self-perform. So that's why we feel comfortable with the design build approach.
Okay. That was, and maybe you guys can clarify a little bit, the design build compared to the design and bid process. That's generally where you get the,
Trade packages.
well,
Trade
you get the
Change orders.
change orders.
Mhm.
You don't
Correct.
generally see those too much with design build, correct?
No.
We try to work together to make sure that everything is right up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doing the homework ahead of time to eliminate as many surprises as possible.
It's-
Because nobody likes surprises, and that's our job.
The main difference is in a traditional design bid build is contractors are seeing it for the first time when it goes out on the street for bid. Design build, they're seeing it as we're developing it. So we're getting feedback the entire time. So we're working out any issues as far as constructability or budget ahead of time. And then clearing it with, of course, the owner.
So the design build is definitely a more
It's more transparent.
transparent, friendly approach to a better system for,
Client for the owner.
okay.
As long as the team has a history of working together. If you throw an architect and a builder together and say they're design build, who knows what's gonna happen? But when you have a history of working together, it's an excellent delivery product.
That was, once we got the original RFP back and it was designed off of our wants, or set up off of our wants, we did go out and talk to a lot of different departments that were building or had just recently built stations. And that was always the big
Change orders wound up being.
four-letter word.
Yeah, the biggest pain that every one of the chiefs or battalion chiefs, district chiefs that we talked to was their biggest issue that they had, some of which wound up creating major delays in the project for things that really should have been taken care of early on in the process.
You know, because we see here changes in technologies and changes in equipment and, you know, areas like that. Normally everything is addressed and you've got future, you've got space, you've got blank conduits for things that can unknown. Everyone's gonna have some kind of change.
Correct.
But no, I mean, you're not building a science lab here.
Well, I mean, you
You would think.
down to, utility location, a gas meter being put in front of a bay door.
Wow.
I mean, literally,
That
that's.
shouldn't happen when you've got
Right, so,
a team
that's,
working together.
that, but
That's a
it
snip.
did.
Can we assume they didn't do design?
No.
That one was not.
That could be an error just in communication internally with not having a civil engineering department designing the site in-house. Lack of communication between the designer and the civil engineer.
In the low bid general contracting world, you see a lot of instances like that where the drawings are not overlaid correctly.
Mhm.
You know, one mechanical company is working with an electrical company and they're not using the same revision. It's like, then you get it out on the street and, oh, you're right. You
Right,
get ducts on top of lights and, you know,
risers in electrical rooms,
Yeah,
things
sure.
like that.
sure.
Gas meters 5 feet from the openings.
Yeah, it was,
Bizarre.
In the past 10 years, anything else to add to it? Sorry,
No,
I kind of typed.
we'll follow your lead.
Okay.
One quick question. What constitutes a change order with you guys?
An owner's materials change. If an owner wants to change something, that would be
Such as, you know, you
the
got.
location of an overhead door, might be a big one.
Right, but if you've got, you know, there's one plug on this wall and it's 20 feet long, and, you know, adding additional plugs into there that were forgot during the design part of it.
We're gonna show you what code requires and what
Mhm.
your equipment requires, where the outlets go and layout for any instance like that. And then it's up to you if you want more additional space for something we don't know about, and it's just programmed in.
Okay, and that's where I was getting at, because I
Yeah, you
mean,
try to take care of that during the design, so there aren't changes during construction.
correct. I mean, there's always little things that pop up that
Right.
do get overlooked, and I understand that, so that's where, you know, because we know that change orders is where a lot of companies make their money. So that's,
Yeah, at the end of the
That's
day.
where they lose their reputation too.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
And if we ask some kind of silly questions from you guys' perspective, this is scary for us. I mean, we're talking about
Oh, yeah.
investing a large sum of money of our
Right.
taxpayers' money
Correct.
into projects for the next 50 years. So we're trying to make sure that we cover all the bases and get everything hammered out so that there's no surprises.
We're in the same boat. I mean, we just renovated a 1950-year-old industrial plant for our new offices and shop and manufacturing and our design build approach with Dave. I mean, you would think contractors are probably the worst ones to build for themselves, if you ask my wife.
They are.
But, you know, we didn't have that issue, you
Mhm.
know? You run out, where are the different outlets, everything? No, we,
yeah, I was just using that as a.
oh, that's it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's put it this way, during the design process, whoever your committee is, if we are selected, you're gonna be real sick of seeing my face. Because I'm gonna be here all the time, going over the plans, making sure everything's right.
Okay?
And then once you make that change, then it'll come to me, and I'll say, nope, I'm sorry, that's not in the budget. So that's the way that works. I'm sorry, you can't have that, 'cause that's not in the budget. I'm the bad guy when it comes to that, so.
But yeah,
Lieutenant Snyder, yeah.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't make it out of town. How about now?
and I'm fortunate that I'm pretty close to where you guys are, so I'm 15, 20 minutes away. So I would really like to do this job because it's very close to home and I want to drive to Dunedin when I have worked with you guys, so it'd be a very nice change of pace for me.
Very good. All right, within the past, starting off on number 3, within the past 10 years, have any legal actions been taken against either in the design or the build team by a customer? If so, what was the resolve?
None from our side.
Well, I've been practicing architecture for 28 years and I've never had a lawsuit against me.
I said that in wood big time. Right.
Same.
That's awesome.
Same. That's
All right.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Question number 4. Our RFPs, RFQs are based off of wants basis. Our fire department established a committee, which I told you guys about a little earlier, to define the needs for the future in a new building. If awarded and based on their needs assessment, how long would it take to determine a practical ballpark price for construction? And when I say that, Station 1's 21,000 square feet, Station 2 is 16,000 square feet. You'll see some of the work that we did in the back wall. We're not going to be anywhere near that, but how long would it take to come up with a workable square footage to go after for a workable square footage to come up with a workable price?
Well, we've already worked through these designs for a price, and they're in the proposal packages and the cost proposals. Basically, it would take sitting down with the committee, and if we're going to reduce the design budget down, then we're gonna have to go through the designs and find out what is an actual necessity and what is a luxury, both space-wise and material-wise.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I came up with these 2 designs in a week, because that's pretty much all I did. So it's gonna take sitting down with your committee and going through that needs assessment
Okay.
and refining it and refining the budget, and then sitting down also with.
With no more than 30 days.
That's right. As soon as we start getting any kind of plans put together, then I can start doing takeoffs on and putting unit costs to it. So we're working almost live at the same time. Dave would update.
But the most important thing is the site. Because the site is a huge
Heard that
unknown
10
right now,
times
it's not a
again.
factor in this right now. We don't know what utilities are needed, we don't know what the topography of the site is, we don't know what kind of road it's on, if it's on an MDOT road, there's decel requirements. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to the site that can be hidden costs. So the sooner we know that, the better. And I know you, during the pre-bid, you had mentioned you all were working on that. And if you need help with that, if you need help with that, Spicer can help you with that as well.
Okay.
We've got a traffic engineering department, we've got a GIS department, pretty much anything you can think of other than hazardous material surveying. You know, we do everything in-house.
Okay.
And we can come in and pothole and test sites and run soils real quick,
Yeah.
and anywhere you want.
All right.
I've got to know what that smile is.
I know.
You'll find out after the next question.
Okay.
The township is currently 1 month behind in our anticipated schedule. With that in mind, do you believe an August millage vote is an achievable target? And let me add to that. I can't, I don't think, the previous question, I gotta find out how much it's gonna cost so I can
Sure.
ask these guys, hey, can I go after a millage? Dick's here.
That could sell too. Literally you sold.
Yes, we got it. Once I get that number, then I'm gonna actually publicly pursue the sites, with his assistance to kind of hammer things out from there. We got a pretty good idea where we wanna go. I think they're pretty feasible places, except for the one spot. But we're a month behind on where we wanted to be. We had a little issue with getting the approval of the RFP to go out, and they'll have to make a decision, or they're gonna be asked to make a decision on Wednesday's board meeting to pursue a millage, and I'm not sure if they're gonna have another board meeting before the May board meeting to approve an amount that we wanna pursue it for. So, with all that stuff being in mind, is an August millage vote achievable? Or are we,
How much time do you want to have to put out the information? As far as conceptual designs? I'm assuming you're gonna wanna put out some visuals for the voters to see what you're
I
looking at, or are you just gonna stick with straight square footages and numbers?
I would think we would
Even if
have
it's
some
a
sort of a
grassroots
visual, conceptual idea that was based off of our community's perception, or something that would be appealing for us to sell to the
People want to know what they're voting for.
people.
Right.
Yeah.
How
Would
much
it be
time?
the final conceptual, or would it be the dead stat or hard
Construction.
elevation of what it's gonna look like?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Well,
Need dollars and
that's,
cents.
it really depends on how long you wanna get that out in the public. If you want a month ahead of time to get that out in the public, we're gonna have to be really diligent on our process of refining this down. If you only want it out there for a couple weeks, that'll give us a little bit of breathing room. But I'm assuming you're gonna wanna have it out at least 30 days on the website, on the announcement boards, you know, on boards like this in the lobby of the
Township
Township
Hall,
offices.
during the town hall meetings.
Yes.
Every church.
You're gonna want that at least
Copies.
a month ahead of time. So the sooner you can sit down and refine the budget with the team, and refine that design down so we can get new numbers, the better. But I think it's,
We're committed to doing it, right? That's
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Practically achievable.
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Love the deadline.
Interesting, practically achievable.
All right, that finishes all the questions. Anybody have need any clarification on anything?
If, you know, I assume at some point in your presentation, you might go into discussing your guaranteed maximum price concept that you mentioned.
Sure.
Okay, that's what I'm curious about.
Absolutely.
One quick question, how many fire stations has Spicer and Oak City done?
Together, only
Together.
Spicer or Oak City?
Spicer or Oak City?
we've got like 6, some military though,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
That's right, you did the military stuff.
Yeah, military was a lot of it.
We don't have that kind of money.
They say we still have the forms for the bollards. We've been trying to reuse them.
Spicer's been involved with, well, since I've been at Spicer for 8 years. And I've been involved with 4 stations. And I'm currently working with Jerome Township on their new station. So,
And I still have a fire truck if you need it.
yes.
From the last fire station job we did.
So they do barter.
Yeah.
You said you
Oh,
did
yeah.
pay with a fire truck?
Yeah.
It's a 1969 American LaFrance.
Good year.
Yeah.
It's a fun.
That's-
It's a fun.
You get the other spread. So in our proposal and using, following your format to break down our proposal and our pricing is a little bit of a challenge. Because like nowhere in here would you see that we are carrying a 4% contingency. And we've got $414,000 in contingency carried into this number going forward. So that's all lumped into that second to the bottom number. And we did our estimating and budget off of, like we were building it from concrete all the way through masonry, building some all the systems. And we brought in our own mechanical, electrical, and plumbing guys to assist to verify our numbers. So we're pretty solid on our numbers in current. Checked here with our local friends and trades to make sure the market's still the same. Well, we're still down there working for consumers, so we got a good handle on local trades. And everybody we're working with out of the recovery park job down in Detroit, we're all on board. So we were pretty good. And you've got availability here of good materials and good tradesmen locally. So we're not even planning on having to self-perform any of the work by ourselves. It's just the numbers are gonna be there if we have to. So preliminary on the site evaluations, this is a combination, of course, of Spicer Group and ours for the meetings. And they broke them down by percentage, we broke them down based on the subtotal of construction cost. And we rounded up numbers, because we felt strongly that you wanted a number for this project. And going from here, we're willing to go and walk through the entire portion of the project and value engineer it down through the materials. We see a lot of savings for the masonry. David's strong in masonry, he feels this is gonna be a 50-year project, standalone. He didn't think you were creating your metal building, but I think with value engineering, price, a combination of some exterior masonry facades and the rooms that had to be high impact, high abuse of masonry, but maybe not a complete masonry facility like we proposed.
I'd be good with facades.
Masonry.
Masonry with
Veneer.
veneers.
Must have took
Well-
some kind of medication.
Those 2 designs, there's 2 different designs there, because I didn't want to give you 2 buildings that look the same.
Right.
So I gave you one that was kind of contemporary, had a little bit of metal insulated panel, and one that is very traditional with a slight contemporary twist that's mostly masonry. So, not knowing exactly what your tastes were, where the context of the site is, what it has to fit into, if it's in a neighborhood or if it's in a commercial area, that's going to greatly affect the way the building's going to look.
I'm seeing a lot of the designs coming with flat roofs. Why is that?
Yeah, that's my question right there.
One of the big things that we heard we visited, was it 8? Out of the 8 departments that we went to, most of which were built within the last 10 years, everybody said, stay away from the flat roof.
And it's not just you guys. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
displays.
No,
of
actually,
flat roofs.
Jerome Township is being designed with the pitched roof. Mostly because they have the area requirements that I can do ground mounted equipment. So the reason you see a lot of flat roofs, number one, it's an inexpensive roof to put up versus putting trusses, pitched roof, and roofing materials. Number two, it gives an excellent location to put all your rooftop units, your heating and cooling units. Now, that first one is a combination of pitched roofs and flat roofs, but that second one is definitely flat roof. Again, not knowing exactly what your preferences are, I've done them in both ways. The sizes of these buildings, it's less expensive to do a flat roof. When you start doing pitched roofs with 80-foot bays, you're gonna have to either have girders, intermediate girders, because you can't build a truss that long and ship it. So the other way is bar joists that are pitched, and that's a little bit more tricky of construction, but it's definitely possible.
So there's a cost savings with a flat roof compared to a traditional pitched roof.
Yep, there's a cost savings and a practicality for building systems equipment, for your rooftop equipment. It's an easy place to hide things. It makes it easy to service them. Servicemen can get up on a roof, have a flat work area around them to do any servicing on the rooftops. A lot of times you'll see pitched roofs that'll have an equipment platform cut out of the roof or built on top of the roof. Well, when they do that, there's almost no room for any servicemen to get up there. And then on top of that, the OSHA requirements for railings and for the ladders and the clear space requirements and the safety harness requirements when you do something like that, that just makes it a little bit tougher for the maintenance people. You can put it inside, but then you're eating up your mezzanine space for mechanical equipment. But not knowing what the site is, I mean, it can be, you can have ground mounted equipment very easily and screen it and do a pitched roof. That's a very easy thing to do if we've got the room. These are that first building's pretty big. It's pretty big. And it could be reduced in footprint by going 2 stories, but the added cost of an elevator isn't worth.
If you got the floor space.
If you've got the space to make it a single story, then that's what I end up doing, because elevators are very, very expensive.
So on that note, if there was to be a second story, and you're stating that an elevator is required, even though the second story would be classified as.
A mezzanine does not require an elevator.
No, I'm talking like second story with bunks and so on and so forth.
Restricted access.
The fire suppression side, but it would be restricted access to fire personnel.
The only way you can do that is going to the state ADA Board of Appeals, Barrier Free Board of Appeals, to get an exception. It's not an automatic. That's one of the other hats I wear. I'm a state code official. So you have to go through the appeal process to be able to do that.
So do you sit on that board?
No, I do not.
Hey,
I do not.
Here's your time to ask that question.
Fire poles.
Yes,
Yeah.
Legal or illegal in the state of Michigan?
legal.
Legal.
They're faster and way easier than an elevator.
Yeah, they have to have a little twist gate and open and come down through.
Yeah, they gotta have guards around them.
Yep.
I've actually put them in private residence to get to an escape room. It was a Pontiac detective.
We have one at Rapcon too.
I've sat through a previous fire station build, and I've always, in the 20 years I've been here, that OSHA, or my OSHA, does not allow fire poles anymore, and they have to be slides or.
They sell them every day.
Well, I know they sell them, but you don't see them being placed in any new built fire stations anymore. And like I said, I've always heard that my OSHA was the one to put stamp of no on that one.
That might be more a liability question.
Right.
So here's the other question. With the possibility of going to the ADA Board of Appeals, number one, what's likelihood of winning the appeals? And number two, if you were the ones chosen, would you be the ones going up there requesting, or is this something we have to do?
You would raise your likelihood of success if you had facilities on the first floor and the second floor, especially since you have EMS on staff, because EMS can be wheelchair bound. Can't discriminate. So
How can you?
I'm
How are you gonna
I'm
pick up a
confused by that
strategy?
they can drive.
Wow, that's interesting.
They can drive.
That's just only though if it's like living quarters upstairs, right? If you had like storage or gym or something up there, would we still require an elevator?
It's a gray area, and I tell all my clients safer than sorry to go through the process. It is a lengthy process.
That's fine.
It'll take 4 to 5 months to go through that process.
But it can be done.
But it can be done. But if you've got the space, that's why I suggest just going ahead and making it a single story, except for mezzanine. There are exceptions in the code for mezzanine. As long as I keep it under 10 occupants or keep it completely open. Or have if it's enclosed, 2 stairs under 10 occupants. It's not required to have an elevator or a lift.
Okay.
That's the other option, is a stair lift. It doesn't have to be an elevator. Stair lifts are more reasonable, but they're cumbersome, and most people don't like them in their way.
I'll throw one at you. How amenable are you to a complete design change?
Absolutely open.
Yeah. However you know, this was done with only the RFP in front of me to go by. There's no personalities, there's no interviews with staff. I have no idea other than what was written in that
Yeah, it's pretty
assessment. How your department runs, like where are you gonna, do you like your gear in a separate room, or do you like it right next to the trucks?
That's good.
The only-
The answer, because, having done design work myself, you have to try and extrapolate from what you're given, what you can
Yeah,
produce.
we're not married to this, we just had to present something based on what we were given.
That you can put your apples to apples with, so. Because I think the gable roof is probably one of the, or a pitched roof of some sort. Probably doesn't necessarily have to be just a gable.
Yeah, it could be a single pitch.
Right. It's probably something we would like to look at more seriously than that, because I hate to say it, but every flat roof I've ever dealt with leaks.
Eventually, they will. They will.
You
And
pierce
they
it,
will.
it will
Over
leak.
there and they're a pain in the neck.
Eventually, they will leak, especially when they get forgotten. And a 20-year roof goes for 30 years, then they start getting leaks, and then, oh my gosh, we need a new roof. And then it's already, by then it's too late, it's already done damage underneath because it's leaking. But it's a really
Depending
tough
on the
decision.
materials, it doesn't mean pitched roof isn't gonna fail.
No, it doesn't, it doesn't.
You gotta make sure you got,
But yeah, you gotta pay attention to that because, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, hey, that roof looks great, I don't need to do anything with it, but you gotta look at your replacement charts. And after 20 years, it's probably time to put a new roof on.
Were these designs done with the lead, like, construction?
Specification.
Or is this?
Every good architect always keeps, you know, energy conservation and good building practices in mind.
Mhm.
Were these done with LEED? No. LEED is a very involved process and a very expensive process, with the most expensive part of that being commissioning the building. We can do that, but it'll add 2 to 5% to the building costs. So when I am designing a building, I'm always keeping in mind energy efficiency, availability of local materials,
Mhm.
you know, to keep that carbon footprint down and be responsible. I mean, any good architect tries to, you know, takes an oath to be ethical. And part of that oath is being ethical to our environment.
And then one last question that I have at this point. Is this proposal that you guys put together, is that with both stations being built at the same time, or one and then the other?
It can go either way. Yeah. Obviously, there's gonna be a savings if they're going concurrently.
Mhm.
On the energy conservation, are there any particular features that would help with that? Or,
Oh, you ready?
yeah, well, I mean, general. I'm,
Number one is your heating and cooling systems.
okay,
You can go anywhere from geothermal to just high efficiency natural gas, including a higher C rating on your air conditioning.
Geothermal.
Geothermal's expensive.
It's expensive, but.
I have done it. If you have a lot of property, the only places I've done geothermal for municipal buildings is when they have acreage. Because we can do a horizontal loop system, which basically is a bulldozer scraping down below the frost level and putting a bunch of loops in the ground and then covering them back up. If you don't have a lot of property, like out at Oakland University, they've got 700, 150-foot deep wells for their geothermal system. That was a lot of money to put that in. You know, that's a zero energy building, that new nursing school that they have out there. But
Could you say that last word again?
zero energy. And it almost works.
50 feet.
It almost works. It was designed that way, but Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. It's got geothermal, it's got passive solar, active solar, and then the building envelope. For this project, I'm looking at shading for, you know, depending on how the building's orientated to the south. We look at shading of the windows to make sure we take advantage of solar gain in the winter, but solar shading in the summer. Of course, low E glass, thermal breaks in your storefront systems, a high R value in your walls and roof. Vestibules that have air brakes so that you're not letting hot and cold out of the building. You know, a lot of buildings, they'll just have a door and boom, the wind blows in, the receptionist freezes his or her
Township hall.
behind off. But it's good to have an airlock so that you're not doing that.
I mean, 14 space heaters plugged into
it's just
I don't know, on a
funny.
clerk's office.
It's just not even.
Yeah, and that's where zoning comes in. It's good to have zoning in your heating system so that an office on
Sometimes it
the
doesn't
south
matter.
wall isn't on the same thermostat as an office on the north wall. So that you can adjust the thermostats equally so that you don't waste it. All that money you're saving isn't wasted by people putting in space heaters because they're in a north office that's on a south thermostat. I must admit our headquarter building in Saginaw has a lot of that, but that building was built in the 30s, and we've upgraded it a little bit, but not all the way. As far as your bays, that's going to be tough. energy conservation in your bays is very difficult. What I like to do is in-ground heat. It keeps ice and snow off the pavement in the wintertime, and it also it heats objects rather than heating all the air and all the air just going up to the top. It's more comfortable for everybody.
How's the maintenance on the in-floor heat? It's the second group we've heard talk about in-floor heat.
High efficiency boiler and a manifold.
I'm just checking the glycol every 5 years. Nothing.
Yep.
It's close to 0 moving parts.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's very efficient for that, and up in the Jerome Township fire station, we're doing that in the bays, but we're also running a loop around the perimeter on the entire envelope, because it helps with the heating bill. You know, we're already running that. It's going to be running anyway, and they're high efficient, so just takes a little bit of that edge off the concrete slab and gives a nice curtain around the exterior of the building, especially if you have a lot of glazing. Especially with that request for the museum space, I imagine that's going to have that would have some glass if it still makes it through the final cut.
You ain't gonna make it through the
Yeah, we put an overhead
That was the
door.
very first thing where I was like,
Yeah, we put an overhead door so you could put a vehicle on display
It just-
in there.
it's-
Some nice shelves.
if money was no object, then obviously it wouldn't be a concern.
Okay.
But we have to present something to our residents that is functional, it's gonna last, and it's going to provide to this community for many, 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 many years.
Okay.
And there was things that we had to go through as a committee and say, this isn't gonna stay, this isn't gonna stay, just because it comes down to the overall cost that we have to.
Yeah, of course we want it all, but
Your fiscal responsibility.
Right.
Yes, being to our residents.
Yeah.
But getting back to the thermal efficiency
Right.
of the building, so you've got high efficiency air conditioning units, high efficiency furnace rooftops or ground mounted equipment, boilers, high efficiency boilers, high R value in your walls and roof. Depending on what kind of design it is, looking at the color of the roof, obviously if it's a flat roof, it's a white or a light color for reflecting the heat. If it's a pitched roof, if it happens to have any valleys at all, I recommend a dark colored roof so you can get that snow and junk off that roof as quickly as possible so it'll melt. Let's see what else is there. Lighting, LED lighting, of course. Lighting management systems to make sure lights aren't left on in a space. Rather than a centralized water heating system, several on demand where they need to be, so you're not heating a giant tank of water and you're not losing all that heat pumping it through a big long pipeline. It just, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can save money, and those are the most obtainable as far as costs go. They're not outrageously priced, and you know it's pretty not much of a cost difference for doing those things.
Okay, I have a question for the costing man, the money man. How much would be saved by eliminating a hose tower and going with a different option for equipment drying?
What kind of hoses are you using now?
Sorry?
What kind of hoses are you using now?
A lot of this goes back to the understanding that, you know, when this station was built back in the 60s, the codes were different than they are now. Our understanding has come down to that now with a hose tower, you're talking about steel stairs all the way up and around because you can't have the ladder access that hose towers used to have.
You can, as long as it's a caged ladder.
Above 6 feet when it's caged.
So is there really a cost savings by, we've looked at we actually saw a system out in Independence Township, about the size of a bathroom, maybe a little bit bigger, 8x10,
Yeah,
8x8.
just the best way to say it would be a 10x10 room.
Had an extracting machine in
Nope,
it?
Yeah.
it had a like
Fan.
bread rack.
Yeah,
Slide it
big
in
bread
there,
rack was
and all it
awesome.
did was circulate
around.
the air, and you had different shelves. You put the loop toes in there. You could hang turnout gear, anything in there. But again, trying to find ways to save money and cut things out. So I see a practical
Yeah,
benefit to.
I haven't done a
host
host tower in quite some time.
I see a practical benefit to a host tower because we can do training in it. With the stairs all the way around, you can do high-rise training, you can do standpipe training, you can do just rappelling, any number of things
Yeah.
you want to do. But from the practical cost standpoint of it,
You have no liability.
Yeah, I don't have a stair in either one of those right now. They're a caged ladder with a little platform on it. That's it. Just so you can get access to pulleys.
okay.
If you want to get into a training tower type of a situation, I think it would be more practical, especially if you were going to do live training, to have it not anywhere near this building.
We've got the system for you for that.
The proposal that you had here, is that including all systems except for IT? And was it done as a turnkey project, or was it done as what we see here?
We've done the turnkey, minus your FF&E, and phone systems or security,
Okay.
so we don't know.
And site mode,
Oh, yeah,
because we don't have a
Right,
site.
crew
exactly.
building, concrete.
What about like as far as like how familiar are you guys with like our exhaust systems and stuff?
Mhm.
We need floor drains, all that. That's all.
I have to apologize, I think I had a salesman call you a bunch of times. Extraction
like-
system, exhaust system guy.
What was his name? What, like
Tom-
Frozen or something?
Yeah. I'm
Called
sorry
me
if
a
you
bunch
did.
of times.
No,
Okay.
he probably emailed me and I sent him back that we're in the
Yeah.
process, nowhere near.
Okay.
I had also been getting calls from Climo Events Rep and Magnet Event, and as soon as the RFP went out, I started getting calls from everybody and their brother.
Sure.
Yeah, I've actually seen a trend moving away from those venting systems and just having whole room venting systems. Same thing with the air, with the, the air and electric powers, with all everything on board the trucks nowadays. They're not connecting to air on the newer trucks, so I don't see that happening anymore either. But I don't know what, I looked at some of your equipment while we were here, but I didn't get a whole lot of time to go poking my nose through everything.
So we don't have an exhaust system.
No.
Yeah.
No, he was talking,
He's
talking
talking
about
about shorelines.
Yeah, shorelines and air comes. And that is one of the things that, if we get approval to go for a millage, we'll be pursuing a little more to see what kind of vent system. We looked at the Plano, we looked at the Magna Vent. There's another system that's just I'm not sure if it's negative or positive pressure, but just, it's amazing how quick it exhausts all of the diesel particulate out of the room.
Greendale Township, I just did detectors. As soon as it detected an unsafe level, pops on, dampers open, and it vents out the room.
Greendale?
Yeah, Greendale, it's off M20 between Midland and Mount Pleasant.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
Not that I can think of at this moment.
We haven't gone into some of the arrangements as far as financial. You said open book,
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you say, and then guaranteed maximum price.
Mhm.
So how does that work?
Works, this is what it is. We go through and define the budget for you by division. We break it down and we all agree upon going into it, materials for each one. And then we go and release bid trade packages for the locals and break them down as small as components as we feel comfortable, we know that they can perform. And again, if they can't, then yes, we have a guaranteed max price, so we'll have to self-perform that work for that dollar amount.
I see. Do you have so would somebody be on site from your company?
Yes.
What's?
Like Don Hurt,
Okay.
was the superintendent that proposed. He's out of Bay City, he's currently on a hospital job there that gets done in August, so we're hoping
Well,
move right in.
Hospital addition or new build?
New build.
New Bowman.
Holy cow, Mid-Michigan Medical.
Mid-Michigan.
I happen to be the plan reviewer for Bangor Township, so I reviewed that project.
So he has to review our drawings.
Your own drawings.
Fire chief from Bangor.
He just retired.
No, he just retired from Canton. He took the job in Bangor.
No, the chief of Bangor was, he's my fire officer instructor.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, he probably retired 4 years ago, because that's when,
Sounds about right.
anyways,
I
sorry.
couldn't
digress.
tell you anyone's name right now. It's, I'm there, that whole municipality has gone through a bunch of changes. And they hired a new building official, who had heard that I do pretty good plan reviews, so. I've been doing their reviews now for about 6 months. So I haven't met everybody over there yet. I get their big projects, like, Johnson has a big building addition going out there, a hospital. All the stuff that they don't feel comfortable, they send it over to me, and then they said, okay, when can we have it? So as soon as I get it done, I send it over or drop it off, and they're like, thanks, bye, Dave. So I haven't gotten a chance to meet everybody over there yet.
We got an agreement like that.
The contingency, how does that play out?
That's just item for you, and then whatever we agreed upon to set that for, we do. I mean, that's your money.
Is our money?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's not split at the end?
No. Haven't proposed shared savings, but we definitely wouldn't mind it.
What about meeting schedule for
Oh, yeah.
project meetings?
We'll set that up with you, with your team, with availability.
Okay.
We both have weekly progress meetings and the monthly progress meetings where we like to bring in and, we've been doing lately with our progress meetings, and then how close or comfortable you are with the job site. So we also do a lot of drone video and submit the pay application with our drone video. It just seems to help. It's amazing what live footage can do and time-lapse footage can do to see the project go through. And you can get as involved or not as involved as you want. It can be all website hosted and everything. Right down to when you were saying on open book, we'll give you a username and password to be able to log into our system, and you'll be able to drill down on costs yourself, just with a username and password.
Okay.
Right down to the submittals and project schedule and daily reports.
Just when I need another password.
There's that question I forgot.
Yes, sir.
Your overall proposal that you have here, what would be from start of project to end
how
time-wise?
long? Yeah.
A year.
So 12 months?
Yes.
For both?
And then on your site conditions, of course.
Right, and obviously,
A few variables.
I understand that, nobody's Superman, we can't see into the ground, we don't know what's there, so on and so forth. But the way that this sits right now, let's just say, in a perfect world, everything's fine, you're saying 12 months.
Correct.
Hoping that the site isn't an illegally filled in wetland from 50 years ago. Yeah,
We had a local restaurant that went through that.
Yeah.
it's a mess, the pilings and.
They weren't building building on it, but it was next to it, and it was part of where the septic system was gonna go, so.
Ooh. Engineered system gets
I
expensive.
think it was a $300,000 mitigation.
We're seeing a lot of money out there for brownfields going
Well,
around.
it was not contaminated, it was just full of washers, dryers, bicycles, dirt, mud, rocks, boulders.
It's better than
They could
accidentally digging up a Indian burial ground.
Yeah, that's the
That's
second
it,
time.
yeah, we keep hearing that.
Is
It
that
happens a
ever
lot.
having occurred?
Yes, it does.
Especially this out in.
It's a
Arizona.
6-month stop to a project to get state archaeologists out on
Yeah.
site.
Just so you guys understand, where the library sits, Chief Pontiac used to camp there.
As long as he's not buried there.
And so
Well,
you
they
have
find
no idea
artifacts.
what's
Boy, I tell
there.
you what, they don't have to find much, and they can.
I used to dig up arrowheads there all the
Things.
time,
Oh, that's,
so.
yeah, but that's cool, that's not like
But
scary.
it doesn't mean they didn't bury somebody.
A lot of these
Sounds like
It's
it's.
not like
really
covers all
good.
open every time.
Potawatomi.
Wow.
12 months.
So they've been everywhere that we had, that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so,
Well, downtown Rochester, I don't know if you guys knew about that one, they had to dig up all the sewer lines and put new sewer lines in. In the process, they were digging down, they dug right to the front of the buildings. And they dug down the full basement level to put in all new stuff. And they found the remains of a horse and some other things that were in there. They had to have that all checked out. Well, there's a planter box that has a glass top on it that you can look down in and see the remains in there. So they had to keep that. They couldn't bury it back up.
We found some tombstones on Lake Huron from 1800, perfect marble slabs, preserved. Pulled it up. It was the most eerie feeling.
Nah.
Shut down for a little while and just came to find out through the history that they were just markers there. Their family wanted to put their marker on the Lake Huron, and
Some people that lost their life on a lake and they wanted to mark it that way.
no, you find that all over the state. I mean,
Cross your fingers.
yeah.
Well, Spicer was involved with the grinder pump sewage system here in Milford. They found things doing that. They're involved with the Paint Creek trail restoration and the creek restoration. Found stuff there. So I mean, everywhere we go, we find things. Well, Dearborn, we did a trail down there along with the Rouge, and we found all kinds of nasty things. And,
Yeah, but that was only 20 years old.
oh, there's stuff older than that, but it's
Yeah, we're downtown in Detroit with this recovery park, this garden system, but it's gonna be very interesting. I'm right down Brush Street, I mean, it's.
yeah, it's
Great
fun. So let's hope for a nice clean site that no issues like that come up, because delays cost everybody. So.
Any other questions? I'm good. Should we let him finish their proposal that he was going through before we also jumped in on it?
No, we're starting talking about not being home.
Let's go through the boards.
Sure.
You wanna-
Well, like I was saying before, we did a couple of different designs. One that was a little bit more contemporary with some slanted roofs on it, and one that looks a little bit more traditional, with some contemporary flavors with cantilevered overhangs for window coverings and building mounted flagpoles that also kind of emulate some of the other things that are going on here. Like I said before, it's been quite a while since I've done a hose tower in a building. I've done elements to a fire station that resemble a hose tower, but they weren't hose tower elements.
So a hollow clock tower that looks like a hose tower would be good.
Yeah, well, basically, the one I'm working on right now, we've got a taller element over the vestibule. And we've got some clear story windows in there. And we're hanging a retired flag in it. Over time, when you come in, you see this kind of tattered, retired flag hanging overhead that's lit up at night with lights, and then during the day by daylight. So that was, how we brought that element. I mean, most people see a fire station, they're looking for that hose tower. Well, I'll start with a smaller station. 4 bays, double deep. It's got a mezzanine level that's open, and we. Oh no, I got it mixed up.
I'm gonna sneak behind you so I can actually see.
Sure.
Yeah. there we
Okay.
go.
That's the right one. So yeah, the apparatus bays are double deep, 4 wide. I've got the turnout gear lockers in the bays. That's where the firefighters have asked for in the past 2 projects I've worked on.
Everything readily accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly so that it's out of the way over here, and, you know, there's no doors on that side except for a couple exterior doors. And I do remember you saying you did not like a whole lot of doors in the apparatus bay from the law. They are a necessary evil in most cases. So we've got your breathing apparatus storage, hose tower, got the decon right off the base with your shower and your eye station. Then a unisex bathroom and a work maintenance area right there. EMS storage, your dispatch watch right up front, with a service window for after hours in case someone wants to come in. In case you got that resident that wants a burn permit at 10 o'clock at night.
That never happens.
There. Yeah, well, we're having a bonfire tonight, can I get a burn permit? So, but I kind of went through everything you had on your list, and I economized it. I tried to minimize the square footage for circulation, and tried to maximize the use of each space. In this case, the bunk rooms, barn doors, or curtains on the rooms rather than swing doors, because swing doors take up a lot of space. And there's room for basically a bookshelf, underbed gear stowage, and a bed. So, you know, a little bit more than that, but, you know, not extravagant.
Is that kind of underbed storage?
If it had legs on it, it would be. Of course, separate men and women's locker and restroom areas, a nice big kitchen area. And one of the things I like to do is do separate storage cabinets for the different shifts, so there's no fighting over whose stuff is what shift belongs to what stuff. Right now, I'm only showing two full-size refrigerators in there, but again, we haven't talked about things like this and how many refrigerators, how many shifts you're gonna have, how many different teams, how many, you know. I've seen fire stations with padlocks on the refrigerators, so, you know, it all depends on how you're gonna use it. Nice large day room with a porch outside. I've actually got the generator located indoors in the generator room. Cost savings could very easily be by putting the generator outside. But I don't know where it's going. If it's in a neighborhood, we're probably gonna want that generator indoors to help suppress the noise. It's also really nice to have it indoors in case it gets stubborn one day and it's rainy. And you gotta get a service guy out there. And the service guy doesn't like working in the rain, so he'll be the last one on your list if he knows your generator's sitting outside. Outdoor storage, mechanical room accessible from the outside. And then a mezzanine. I put the exercise room on the mezzanine level. I am allowed to put it up there as long as I have under 10 occupants. I can have an enclosed room. If I go up to 20 occupants, then I have to put another staircase up there. But depending on what kind of roof you want on it, this mezzanine could be used for strictly storage, that's a lot of storage on that mezzanine level.
That's good.
It can be access. We could make access to a hose tower. If you really wanted to have a stair in there, you could save yourself some stair costs and go off the mezzanine level and start it from there and go up. Also, if we ended up with a pitched roof and mezzanine levels, a really nice place to put some air handling equipment out of the way. If you don't have room outside for ground mounted. But that's pretty much the smaller building. I was able to get pretty much everything on your list and get it down to 14,500 square feet. So it's, and I think it could be reduced more if there's some luxuries we take out of there, like the generator. But again, like I said, I don't know where.
We're gonna reduce it by about another 6,000.
Another 6,000.
Wow.
Okay. Okay.
We have some ideas.
Right.
Well,
I see your list there.
The station I'm working right now, it is not a 24-hour station. It's a volunteer station. So it doesn't have dorms.
But we are actually a paid on call system also.
Okay.
We do have 2 people on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's staffed by part-time staff. But this building's lasted us 50 years, going from a run volume of about 200 runs per year to last year was just 1,400 runs.
So we're looking towards the
Future,
future.
Yes.
Okay.
the future changes, the needs for service, as things evolve, we want to make sure that whatever we're investing our money in is going to be for the long haul, not just a
Okay.
Band-Aid on the current system.
Okay. Well,
More or less, we're siting these on their property
Yeah.
as well and have expandable end walls and
yeah.
so they are.
It can very easily be expandable as long as, you know, you plan your locker rooms and bathing facilities on a corridor that can be expanded into dorm spaces. You know, maybe that's something you don't do right away, or you don't do all of them. Maybe you just do your couple spaces, so you don't have to have beds in your training room. But,
Have you
So
seen that
bunk
before?
beds in the day room.
but anyway, that is the smaller one, and it fits everything that was on your list.
Okay.
The larger one, well, this one's the more extravagant one. Okay. The idea here, because it is so square footage heavy, was to divide up some of the utility space off to one side and basically compartmentalize it as living, training, offices, apparatus, and then your utility areas. And again, I want a single story just because elevators are expensive. They're expensive, and I try to stay away from them. And since we didn't have a site, I got to assume that the site had the space for it. So, and it helps with costs as well. But we set it up so that, and I know this will be one of the first things that goes, but your museum space would be accessible right off the lobby, and the lobby is fully enclosed, so that you can control the public. And that's the same thing with the other one. It's about controlling the public, so that if you've got someone coming into your station, they don't have free reign of everywhere. You don't want them getting into the day rooms. You don't want them getting into the offices. You want to control them in the lobby space and attend to them rather than have to chase after them. Same thing with the training space. I mean, when you have a training space, it's not the most desirable thing to have them use the same restrooms as your locker rooms. So we've got public restrooms out there, and that was on your list too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, everything that was on your list is on this drawing. And we weren't as successful with reducing the square footage. This is just over 20,000.
But it sounds like this is our new design.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, how big's my office in that plan?
How big is your office in that? It's pretty.
19
Here.
by,
Yeah, it's
It's like
19
fire
by
marshal's a
12.
little bigger. 19 by.
It's a one-car garage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why do they make the offices, the single-use offices so large? I mean, especially.
Well, in a director's position or someone that's going to be administering staff, it's so that they can have a meeting table and have private meetings in there, and
Try to set it up for yourself and 3 people minimum.
well, it's
The conference room in between the.
it's meant to be able to, so that you can have private conversations with with employees or staff without in a controlled area, so that you're not violating their privacy. And also for smaller. That's why those rooms are. Police chiefs are the same way.
12 by 12, that's all I need.
Just, this was what you had on
Desk.
the list, we gave it to you.
Right.
No, I'd be happy to reduce spaces, but, again, this is the more contemporary design. We've mixed masonry and insulated metal panel, some sloped roof, some flat roof. Just to give you an idea of, you know, two different looks. If I had time and had a budget, I would have done a few more for you. But not knowing exactly where it's going or what your preferences in the community are. I could have done a Scandinavian design like
Like
building.
this?
So this is called Scandinavian.
Anything that has stucco board and batten boards on it that resembles something in Frankenmuth or Gaylord is Scandinavian.
Bavarian.
Yeah, that Bavarian. Scandinavian. But I don't really notice too many other buildings in town that have that look, so.
This is Station 2. About it.
Right.
so.
Cool.
But those are the designs, you know, it's just trying to make the most efficient use of what was in your needs assessment and reducing the circulation space. With the larger station, there's a lot more spaces and a lot less ability to do that, but you know, it did come in slightly under your totals. So, and in that station, we actually put your turnout gear right in the center of the building.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to. Like that idea, but the question we had is, with turnout gear being exposed to UV light and the degradation of, as well as off-gassing from PPE
Yeah,
structures.
Franklin just had to replace all
That was just one of the concerns we had,
Well,
or a couple of concerns we had.
as far as UV, the windows, you know, have filters on them. They can not allow UV light. Of course, you want daylighting in your apparatus bay.
Right.
Nobody wants to be in a dark bay. And then as far as any exhaust or anything like that, that's you're gonna have a ventilation system on all the equipment, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then there's also protection in the actual lockers themselves. You know, they're open lockers, but as long as the face of the locker isn't pointed towards a window, it's going to be shaded.
Kind of a good point, it reduces overall
Well, it's
footprint.
gonna reduce your footprint, which is nice.
I like it.
And, you know, like
Maybe
like
you're
I said,
getting ready to.
a lot of these, the way I'm taking all these are based upon the RFP, RFQ requests. And obviously, once the decisions are made on where moving forward, and then after a successful vote,
Clean slate.
you're starting,
Oh,
you're starting,
You know, we're just trying to show you some of the ideas that we've had in other designs that we've done for fire stations. And things that you might not have seen even on tours of other stations. Being from Independence Township, they have some pretty nice stations. And a nice village to support them.
That was actually Independence out of all the stations Independence and Birmingham. Those two
Birmingham
stations.
has nice stations too.
Their new one that they're building on
Maple.
Maple. We got a lot of great ideas from that, but the Independence was probably the most beneficial one that we looked at, right?
Independence gave us a lot of input.
Yeah, our guys there are pretty good guys.
The difference is that that's an active station that's, you know, you got guys working in, where when we went to Birmingham, that's a new build, so there's no personnel in there. Waterford provided us with some information and things that they wish were different. And it also opened our eyes when we, as a committee, when we were going through this, and we're like, didn't think about that. Well, this is good to know. This is something we need to look forward, you know, make sure that we have that at that point in time.
Yeah, I've taken the scouts through station number 1 in Independence lots of times.
Do you have layouts of other stations you've done?
Not with me.
Okay.
We put a collection together for you.
I just like out of curiosity, like having like why the locker rooms have access to the bays versus like the day room and stuff, like just how it's set up.
Well, on that station, it was set up that way so that you could have access from both the bays and inside to the restrooms and lockers. So it eliminates having a separate restroom just for the apparatus bay.
For sure.
So it's a little bit of cost savings there with one less restaurant.
But the amount of time spent in a bunk room or a day room versus like a bathroom, hopefully, is I know it's just a rough draft.
Yeah, they're different. There's
That's
just
why
different ideas.
We took these and, you know, when we were presented, we sat down, we went through everyone that was presented to us, and based upon these, you know, highlighted things that would be different if we had that stamp of approval.
Do you guys now use fire rescue GPO or anything?
Fire rescue what?
GPO,
GPO.
nationwide consortium for fire department
No.
fire rescue?
We use BidNet or Mitten locally or for the state. Bless you. But that's,
Okay.
I never even heard of the fire rescue GPO.
Send it to you, but I mean,
Okay.
increases your buying power nationally. We've got great national accounts too. We share with you all the overhead doors and, you know, all that. Still installed by locally, just national guys are providing it. And there's a really good savings on materials, but.
That's
All
awesome.
about saving money.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like I said, these designs were put together in a week
No.
without input. So,
That's awesome.
and they are original designs. They're not copies of anything else we've done. I don't like to recycle anything. Ideas, yes. Drawings, no.
What did you call it earlier? You build it so that it's prepared to be expandable, or?
Yeah,
Expandable end walls.
you can create the
Expandable
design.
end walls.
Yeah. What you do is design the building in a configuration that allows to add on all the surface space. So if you needed, let's say you didn't want to do all those dorm spaces right now, you configure a corridor that could lead to future dorm spaces that's easily added onto the building.
And you lay your building out to your site.
Oh, it leads nowhere.
I like that.
Same thing with apparatus bays. I've designed stations that they wanted 4 apparatus bays, but could only afford 3. So we've designed it so that there's nothing on the exterior of that apparatus bay. So that wall is easily taken down and you can add another bay at a later time. And it saves quite a bit of cost.
That's awesome.
So there's lots of different ways to get what you need and plan for what you want in the future.
Not tying yourself in.
Any other questions?
Good. Thank you.
I'll open up anything you,
No, we're rarely able to meet with you again, and anything you want to do as far as get all the fire chiefs together and have a sit down around of drawing and learn from everyone's ideas and take them in. That's a worthwhile meeting to host.
all right. How did we leave it? I may have follow-up questions later on this evening, so I apologize if you get something at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
I apologize if you get a response at 2:38.
We wouldn't do this if we weren't passionate about it, so please.
Damn it, that'll wake me up too.
Put it on silent, otherwise
I got a
it'll
question for
ding.
you.
Yes, sir.
We've got this millage that we've gotta go after. What kind of assistance would you be able to lend us on that to help us Good for that.
Well, we've worked with a couple of school systems, assisting them with millage or bond issues. We've assisted Owasso schools on bond issues and their sinking fund. It's basically the same things that we do every day for a normal project. Costing, design work, scheduling, and providing the artwork, the razzle-dazzle shiny objects that makes people excited about a project.
And just the grassroots, anything we do to help the public,
Yeah.
have the public buy into it.
You know, showing up at meetings, explaining designs or costs or what's involved.
It's amazing what Razzle Dazzle does, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah,
Not functional, but it's really
We
pretty.
talked about bringing the 3D model and doing the fly through.
I have my laptop here. I could walk you through, fly you through it, but I thought that would just take too much time.
Well, if you wanna do that, we have the capability to do that, so.
We believe you.
I think the board's,
I'll get you what you need.
but that's something we have done, is done 3D fly arounds that can be hosted on a website to help with bond issues or villages.
Cool.
I know that with our millage in Independence Township, I'm involved with Rotary, and we went around to a lot of different groups and explained why this was a good idea and why we needed it. And now our fire department, well, you saw it, our department's great. We've got excellent equipment, excellent facilities. I witnessed it personally, the new hazmat equipment at about 3 a.m. when last summer when my neighbor's wife, who's from Germany, freaked out because she dropped a mercury thermometer and called 911. And they had 4 trucks out there, floodlights, it was brighter than daylight, and then I could hear saws, and they cut a chunk of floor out of her kitchen, and it woke me right up. Those lights just went right in the building. But they have excellent equipment, excellent response time, and, that's what community.
Meanwhile, us at 12 years old are going out, oh, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, we used to play with it.
Right.
You know, the little rocker switches on the thermostats, those were cool.
I'm sorry, Mom, I dropped the thermometer. Try the mercury? Oh my God, son. I turned out all right.
Explains a lot.
But, communities getting behind the millage can really help out the department quite a bit.
I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time.